All right, we got people ready to ask questions because I think we got some answers.
Okay, here we go. So this is from Michael Duell. He says ABS will be determined by how well offenses perform. MLB loves their runs and offensive stats.
Mike, that's a good point. I think we're looking for consistency in balls and strikes. I think that's a piece of this equation. Another thing, and we have not discussed it at length yet, John, and we will as we get to spring training. Another thing is the ban on the shift.
Yeah.
Now suddenly the pitchers are going to be at risk because the shift can't bail them out when guys tattoo balls on the right side of the infield. So I don't know how that comes into play here too, but I think Major League Baseball definitely wants some form of consistency with balls and strikes and the zone. But I'm going to be interested to see how this ABS works when you consider how wicked the stuffed pitchers are bringing to home plate and the movement. It's just absolutely amazing.
Well, I again, like I'm looking forward to it because I want objectivity, not subjectivity. But you would hope that once they lock in on what the strike zone is, that they're not going to be monkeying with it like they monkey with the balls, where they're super balls one year and then they're flat balls the next year. So hopefully when they do this, they do it right. And then we don't have to worry about, any craziness going on with balls and strikes. So we can watch the players play.
Do you think the shift is going to change the game this year? Because I tend to think it will.
Radically. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see batting averages go up at least 20, 30 points for a lot of these players.
Okay. Mike, thank you for joining us on Fan Swarm. We got one more in here you want to go to?
Yeah, we do. So we got some YouTube comments here. This one here is from the story we did about Justin Herbert, where there was something that wasn't right with Justin Herbert in that video, and it got so many comments. But here's a good one. This is from Nabes. He says, coaching and play calls mixed with routes. That's the problem he was implying. And he needs to pump fake more. Plus, Herbs will throw balls away when he's unhappy with receiver or play calls. He will overthrow receivers when unhappy. But he doesn't say anything or show his frustration. I've watched him for some time now and study people's body language. It tells you a lot.
Well, I think he's steady, and I don't think he gets rattled. And he gets knocked around, but he's athletic enough to really stay out of harm's way in terms of taking a lot of heavy hits. Did he get sacked a lot? Yeah. This whole thing is interrelated. If you can't run the football consistently, that means you're exposing your quarterback a lot more. You got problems on the offensive front, and they had so many injury issues, especially out on the edge. You got problems there too. So to me, they're going to have to change their player acquisitions. They need a warrior offensive lineman, a run blocking offensive lineman. They need a tough guy running back. They need more physicality at defensive tackle up front. I don't think there's anything wrong with Justin Herbert, with the exception of the question I have about the mechanics. His arm slot, does that need to be changed? You say, well, why would you change somebody that's thrown for 9,500 yards in 2 years? But you look at how many passes he gets batted down. So they'll have to investigate with a new quarterback coach and a new offensive coordinator mechanically where he is. But he is so gifted. I just would hope that they're going to be able to put more better pieces around him. As our viewer said, this is all interrelated. You got to run the ball. You got to pass block. You got to have receivers who get separation. They're deficient in a few areas that they're going to have to address in the offseason. Quarterback is not a major problem there. That's for certain to me.
Well, do you think it was that rib injury he had early in the season and he was wearing the flak jacket? Could that be what's kind of thrown his mechanics off?
No, because he got passes knocked down last year. He's always had this different arm slot to release the football, but it was really pronounced in the Jaguar game. When you're 6'6" and you get 7 passes deflected in the line of scrimmage. Now, part of that might be your offensive linemen not doing a good enough job to knock those pass rushers down. Mm-hmm. Or, if they're going to raise their arms, well, then you're going to slug them in the gut and bring those arms down. So that might have been a bit of an issue, but he is so gifted. And for him not to get badly hurt in 3 years, considering how many times he's been exposed to throwing the football, I mean, it's pretty impressive, but that's because of his athletic ability. A, sees the field, goes through his progressions, gets the ball out of there pretty quickly. And then I think B, he's so athletic that there is a fear that he can run. I view Justin Herbert, and I look at him as a piece of a young John Elway and a piece of the intelligence of Peyton Manning and a piece of I think just the overall ability of Tom Brady. I think he is a complete package.
I mean, could he be like Mike Trout trapped in Anaheim, this elite talent that doesn't have the right package around him?
I hope not. We got any more there?
Yeah, we do got one more here on the YouTube. And this was from the segment about the worst moment in Charger history, with the game with the Jaguars. And we had so many great comments, people bringing up the lore of Chargers history. And this one was from Mark Schwartz. And he said, the date was December 29th, 1979. One name that will forever ruin my Chargers memory is Vernon Perry. LOL. He intercepted Fouts 4 times. Oilers were missing their franchise quarterback and one of their wide receivers.
And they did not have Earl Campbell. You're correct. That's a pretty low moment at a point in time when the Fouts and Air Coryell franchise was, many thought, destined to be a Super Bowl team. John and I argued about this last week. Obviously, low moments have to be Dan Fouts, Vern Perry. Low moments, Ice Bowl Cincinnati. Low moments, Marlon McCree fumble against New England. Low moments, Nate Kading missing all those field goals so let the Jets win a playoff game. And obviously low moments when you lose 27-0 to a substandard team like Jacksonville and get beat. That's pretty low. But somebody else emailed me through my website and said, Lee, the lowest moment was when the Spanos family took this franchise out of San Diego. That's well said too. That was a pretty dark moment in the history of our franchise. I think it's forever impacted the city. I just don't think San Diego is the same sports town now as it was when we had an NFL team that people really loved. And as I've said before, could never forgive Dean Spanos for turning his back on 55 years of loyalty and going north to Los Angeles. And I'll tell you, the explosion on social media, I'm sure you wrote something. I didn't see it, but I'm sure you did. The explosion on social media, anti-Spanos family.
Oh, it's brutal.
Right after they lost that game Saturday and Jacksonville continued to Sunday and then into Monday when Staley started throwing assistant coaches off the boat. Just absolutely nonstop. But yeah, so there have been some dark moments along the way.
Yeah, what's interesting is we're still kind of burned since they moved the team. What was it exactly 6 years ago on the anniversary? But we had such a great run with the Chargers when you were doing play-by-play in the 90s with Stan Humphries, and that run was wonderful. But I moved to San Diego in 82 to be a student at UC San Diego. And I remember back then, everybody was wearing Chargers shirts. I mean, everywhere I drove around town, the sense of pride in their local team, it just really made San Diego special. And just to see what it's turned out to be now, it's just a real sad story.
Yeah. I mean, you think back the run to the Super Bowl with the Chargers in 94 into 95. And John, you mentioned this, one of the first things you ever mentioned when the first time I met you was you could drive through downtown San Diego and see all the hotels. And they all had lightning bolts.
Yes.
On the sides of buildings.
Yeah.
And the business buildings at night were lit. So this office had lights on like that, and it formed a lightning bolt. It was just absolutely amazing. And to see the thing end the way it did was just sad. And there have been great moments. My God, anytime Coryell and Fouts played, that was a great moment. And the run to the Super Bowl under Bobby Ross. And what Schottenheimer did with Rivers and LT and Gates, that was magical. Didn't get them to the Super Bowl, but boy, they gave us a lot of good football. So I tend to think, yeah, there were some bad losses along the way, but the night that Spanos family decided to invoke the greed rule to go to LA for money and turn their back on 55 years of loyalty, that's a pretty dark moment too.